Now, this is the fundamental plan of my book, that the plan of the aliens is to merge with us, to merge with humanity. So the Soul Foundation, a science and academic foundation dedicated to the research of unidentified aerial phenomenon, led by Dr. Gary Nolan, held a symposium at Stanford University last November that included a panel of scientific advisors such as Christopher Mellon and Jacques Vallée.
Here you see President Clinton having a private talk with his science advisor from 93 to 98, Professor Jack Gibbons, an astrophysicist and atomist specialized in the structure of the sun and energy conservation, which is what got him the job. He held this prestigious position at the time when Mr. Lawrence Rockefeller, well-known supporter of American science and the environment, strongly suggested to President Clinton to remove the secrecy and the stigma that surrounded the UFO issue in the US. The problem was a scientific one, but it was mainly political, and as we all know, the secret was not lifted. In February '94, I had the opportunity to listen to Professor Gibbons at the annual meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science in this city, in San Francisco, where I was part of a panel about the use of computer networking and the management of crises in industrial and environmental issues. He presented, Dr. Gibbons presented the keynote address and gracefully took questions afterwards. Of course, someone from the audience asked him, how do you advise the President of the United States when Mr. Rockefeller wants him to reveal once and for all the reality of unexplained objects in the planet's neighborhood? There were a few laughs in the audience, followed by deep and silent expectation. Dr. Gibbons picked up the mic and said he could not answer in place of the White House, but he could tell a short story that would summarize his personal situation. And I'll mention that because it's now our personal situation here. It's about an older man who is tired and goes home one evening. In the grass along the way, he detects an unusual light. As he gets closer, he discovers a frog with the odd detail that it wears a little lighted golden crown. So he's intrigued by that discovery, and he picks up the frog. And he's about to put it in his pocket when it starts talking to him. The frog, this was at AAAS in San Francisco in front of all the scientists in the Bay Area, okay? So the frog explains that in reality she is a young, very wealthy princess, changed into a frog by a mean magician, and all he has to do is to kiss her. She will become human again. They will live together in happiness, and they will have many wonderful children. The old man ponders the situation seriously for a while, and then he puts her in his pocket, saying, at my age, I'd rather have a talking frog. That's funny, but it's also the most clear explanation I've ever heard at the highest level regarding the historical status of the UFO problem in the United States. Remember, this is the advisor, the science advisor to the president.
The most important thing Jacques Vallée said there, himself after studying the UFO phenomenon for 60 years, in some cases alongside the government, said this metaphor of a frog that the man would marry and make beautiful babies with is the most clear explanation ever heard at the highest level regarding the historical status of the UFO problem in the United States. That's the hybrid program, people, and they are putting themselves on Earth. There is a reason I've dedicated my life to this because I'm warning you all, and it is coming, and we are not prepared. With considerable resistance, Scott admitted, this is actually, sorry, this is from Dr. John Mack's book, Abduction, 1995. With considerable resistance, Scott admitted that the intention of the aliens was to live here on Earth, but without us, unless humans change, in which case we might be able to live together. Then he contrasted the ways of humans with the aliens. Human beings are alone, and they don't share. In the alien realm, nobody's in their own world, and everybody knows everything. There are no secrets. This was posted to Reddit, and that's my response at the bottom when I first read this, because I'd never seen this before. Wow, I didn't know this existed. They told me something very similar. I'm convinced this is what disclosure actually is: aliens putting themselves on the Earth. And even from that point, I now have much more corroboration for this. Haim is shed. Even when he said this into the paper, the most important line that's similar to this is they are investigating and trying to understand the rule nature of the universe, and they want us as helpers. I'm going to talk here a bit about John Keel. So John Keel was an American journalist and influential ufologist who is best known for his book, the Mothman Prophecies, a book about a cryptoid that police interacted with. And it is a very strange case scenario. I'm convinced there is a cryptoid there, and he did seem to do quite a bit of research that was very authentic. And he put his name on the map because of that book. Importantly, his background, though, he was drafted into the U.S. Army during the Korean War. And he claimed that while in the Army, he was trained in psychological warfare as a propaganda writer. He was a technical advisor for the Library of Congress, special consultant for the Office of Scientific Research and Bureau of Radiology, and before becoming a consultant to the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. Now, he released a document that is very interesting. He released it in 1967. And this whole document is accredited to John Keel. And it describes the alien scenario that blew my mind because he appears to have gotten several things very, very correct. And so it ends actually at 20 something points, sorry. And it's several points spread over a 3-page document that he sent to his people in the know. It's got his name on it, plus his company and his address. And it's basically how he ends it is: the above information is not speculative. It is based upon personal experience and in-depth investigation. So he actually had his ins. That's the whole point I was trying to make there in the beginning, is that he definitely had people in the know. So it represents part of the whole truth. There is much more. Please regard this as completely confidential. The record shows that all of those in possession of this information are subjected to harassment, threats, and even worse. So I'm going to point out some parts here that are very shocking, actually. Again, sorry, apologize. Zoom's got stuff here. So, point 17. The biological experiments consist of genetic changes. Pregnant women are treated so that their children will bear the desired characteristics. This is the long process and has been going on for many generations. Each new generation is carried further along the evolutionary scale. The next 2 generations will produce thousands of purebred aliens, born of mothers whose parents have been treated and sired by the aliens through artificial means. These purebreds will form a nucleus for a community of aliens who will gradually inherit the Earth and replace entirely the present race here. Some of these purebreds are programmed, so they will be directly controlled and they will serve as leaders. Thousands of purebreds have already reached adulthood and are serving the UFO powers now. Thousands of others are sleepers. They don't even know that they are part of all this. At the proper time, they can be triggered or possessed by the controllers. So, first off, when I read this, I was actually stunned because it described me in my scenario. So because I identify that I am a sleeper, right? That's exactly what I am. I was 41 when all this came to light, and I was triggered, and it happened at a very opportune time when all this is coming out. And listen, I I say this, I'm serving these powers. I have a book and I'm speaking publicly. This right now is me serving those powers, and it's because this has all got kind of a military taint to it. And there's always I'll go into it in a bit more here. You'll see, but always they're missing information. They're always missing the bigger picture, and it's always coming from this kind of military protective element. And you're not really controlled. There's a whole bunch of stuff here that's a bit military, but it is kind of like he got the real information. And this came out in 1967, so very stunned actually. The elder herself said, "We plant our seeds into human mothers' wombs to make the fetuses grow to be like us. We do this to bring humanity to a galactic level so humans can be part of the galactic society." It's just bang on with this 1967 document. Point 15, it said the majority of all contactees run in terror to the authorities, who never believe them, put them down as nuts, and don't even keep records of their complaints. Most of the others commit suicide or go insane. A very small minority remain in contact for months or even years. Often these contactees eventually volunteer for a trip. Some of these trips are of short duration, 1 month or so. Before taking a trip, the contactees are often required to sign a very legal form offering their minds and bodies for experimental purposes. And so I actually was blown away because that's exactly my scenario. So I repeat here, often these contactees eventually volunteer for a trip, short durations. Before taking the trip, they are often required to sign a very legal form offering their minds and bodies. That is exactly what happened to me. They asked for my agreement. It was kind of like a legal thing. And it was also a biological consciousness experiment. That's exactly what it was. And they got my permission to do it. So as for how insane it got, even though I didn't understand the consequences at the time, I was technically at fault for agreeing. But all these years later, I don't regret it. It was a magical time. And so I actually kind of put some things in context here. So in this document also talks about their being's mind control. And I actually say that's why the mind control part can be thought of a little bit differently. It is better thought of as a means they use to get the agreement fulfilled. It was not like I was a hapless victim. They never actually made me do something I didn't want. They used their mind powers to assist my higher self when my higher self wanted it. I'm going to repeat that. They used their mind powers to assist when my higher self wanted it, but my earth brain didn't understand. They used their mind powers to facilitate a higher purpose, even if we don't understand it. And then also in the context of that, the first paragraph I wrote, the biological experiments consist of genetic changes and kind of being triggered, as I mentioned here. Thousands of others are sleepers. They don't even know that they are all part of this. This is 100% me. I was shown that my mother had been injected with a needle while pregnant with me, implying they put their genes into me as a fetus. And I'm definitely serving the UFO powers now. I have a book out and speak publicly. I still see them as orbs outside my window. They are here now. And we are in this together because I know what's coming. It is all spiritual. The higher self, God, afterlife, paranormal, it's all real. And they're taking the planet back. And we do need to assist. I point out that the controllers, I'm convinced, are the Mantis species. So the document talks about the controllers, quote unquote, and doesn't know who they are. And I'm convinced that's the Mantis species, which I consider gurus of the galaxy. So someone, and I just want to point this out. This is very interesting how this all unrolled on Reddit. Someone said, "Can you send a message to your masters?" Kind of, internet troll style. And hello there. You can get the planet. We don't care. Just let us be free and show us the truth. We deserve the truth. And I kind of, retorted, "They are not my masters any more than you have a master now. I have total choice, and I always have." So, right, there's this controlling thing, and it's not a control. It's not what this is. This is kind of, I get it, is what it is. I understand that they're right, is what it is. Um, when everything happens, you'll have more freedoms in their world than you do in this one. Think quantum, no space, no time, i.e., access to all information on a consciousness holographic computer. Like you can watch any event in human history in real time. And it's impossible to have corruption. So I kind of divulged there, the bigger picture. But this is the typical thing that John Keel makes it look very military orientated, and it has a little bit of a different style to it. It's not quite military, but he actually has a lot of points bang on, and it was written in 1967. So, also, the point I want to make to that being written in 1967 is, how do you think he had that information? The aliens were transparent and they told them the plan. The aliens told humans the plan, and then the military or someone had it and they give it to him. But humans didn't figure this information out on their own. They were given this information. So again, that's the transparency. The aliens are not actually what you think they are. They're not controllers, and they're not evil entities, and they're not taking over, right? Um, They are primarily engaged in point number 4, primarily engaged in biological experiments aimed at gradually altering the physical and emotional characteristics of our future generations. I just thought that was interesting. Already read that part. And sorry. Oh yeah, okay. Some parts that were in here that are just, again, they hit me in a really interesting way. Point number 10, some of the groups involved, such as the Little Men, are formerly independent beings who have been brought under control and are now being utilized in the operation. And Jacques Vallée, I don't know if anyone caught it, in his description, in the metaphor he used, the frog said it was put under it was transformed or something, or put under a spell by a dark evil magician. And I can't help but notice, in my book, in contact event number 3, there is the impression that they are the front of something, and then there's this kind of back, which I would consider to be the controllers, the Mantis. And the impression here isn't that they're controlled, but that they agreed, that they work together, and that they're the front for something. And so again, there's like kind of crossovers that are very interesting, that do hint at the bigger picture content here. So this is all the most important part of, talking about the entities merging with us. So in the 10th contact event, I'm going to talk about what I saw here. So they showed me a planet hologram of planet Earth. And basically, I witnessed the planet being devoured. It was like chunks were taken out, like apple cores, like apple eating an apple, like chunks are being taken out and on this hologram. And I understood this was a simple representation that humans were taking all the resources from the planet and eating away at it. I could feel the strain in all the systems of the biosphere that support life, the land, air, and the ocean. The devouring occurred until the entire surface of the planet was gone. Then it began to burn, and a raging fire ensued the entire planet. Then I watched as the planet was recreated. It was obvious. The gray mind would dominate. But there was a distinct feeling of love of nature and preservation, and there was a feeling of celebration that nature would be saved. It would be a nature society with gray alien advanced technology. And not just that, a love would reign. The identity of the planet would change to encompass the Gray's wisdom, love, and kindness, yet highly sophisticated intelligence. This intelligence was an ingenuity with nature, including its quantum and dimensional properties. I could read further into this that the population would understand our dimensional nature and spiritual nature while in love with and respecting Mother Earth. It would actually become a beautiful planet with proper planetary stewardship. I was in awe at the level of change. It was massive. And I understood this information was simplified. I took from that hologram that the biological systems of the planet would be so strained that they will step in. The gray aliens are here because of how badly we humans have messed up our planet. It is about preservation of nature and Earth as a whole. And in the 10th contact event, the twin tells me the results will be humans and hybrids working together, merging the species into one over time.